Alright guys, been doing some more work on this 60 Ford with the 302 swap. Just plucking away at all the piddly stuff, all the stuff that takes more time than you expect. But a lot of back and forth, parts store and hardware store, but we're getting it done. Radiator's mounted, it's full. Heater hoses are on, radiator hoses are in and tight. Ran all new heater hoses, got the alternator set. I ended up changing the water pump. I did have this one on, but this one's for a van, and the vans come out passenger side for the water outlet, so that would have dumped out over here. But this radiator, it's the driver's side, so instead of trying to make a coolant hose wrap under the crank pulley and around to there, I just did a little digging and figured out F250 trucks from the 70s all the way through the 80s and 90s. They came out driver's side, so I went ahead and just went that route. Got a oil dipstick in, got a PCV breather on that back, going to the back of the carb. Like I said, a lot of little piddly, time-consuming stuff back and forth. Part store, I was gonna run double belts to that alternator, but the way this bracket is, that just the way everything lined up, that just wasn't in the cards. So single belt, I mean, it's only a 60 amp 65 amp alternator, so single belt is more than enough. I just like redundancy, so I was hoping to have two on there, but I did get all the little fittings and stuff that I should need to get the old clutch master cylinder to hook into the line. I got a new line and a new slave cylinder that goes down there, so I'm hoping I can make that all work together. I did get the Y pipe put on, so like I said, it just dumps out back there. I gotta run an exhaust. I need to finish making a battery box because the tray that's in it was pretty rotted out, and I'm getting kind of creative. It had a weird little narrow skinny long battery that hooked in there, but I'm not gonna run that tiny little guy for this V8. But it is kind of peculiar because it comes over and steps down and it's flat all the way across. So I just happened to notice my wife cooking. Well, what better to use for a battery box than a piece of stainless that's never going to rust through, and it's even got the exact height step. Yep, I told her she can go shopping and buy a new one. It's just single layer. It's decently thick gauge, but it's not like the air pocket style cooking sheets or anything. So I'm gonna chop that up, clean those brackets up, probably paint them, bolt that in. This is the battery I'm gonna run. I got a little hold down. Now when I do make this, I'll probably cut it in a little bit, and then I'll come out, and then I'll bend that edge up so that battery can't go back, or I'll have that on the front edge so it can't come forward. And then with these tie downs, there's nowhere for it to go. So lots of little things left. I mean, you know, all the hard, complicated stuff is done. You know, the mounts, the drive shaft, those were my main concerns. Making sure it was going to fit, making sure the fan was going to be close enough to the radiator, making sure it wasn't going to hit the firewall. I mean, all the big, oh my God, is this going to actually work things are done. So I could have, hot wired it up and threw the distributor in and got it to run this weekend, but I'm completely confident in the engine, so I'm just going to keep plucking away. I'm just going to get everything done before I fire it. I'll wire everything up. There's some wiring stuff I need to touch up with this truck anyway, so I'll just go ahead and wire everything up the way it needs to be. I'm not going to fire it up without the oil pressure sending unit or the coolant temp. And the other thing, I can't just fire it up and let it run for a few seconds and shut it off because it's got a new flat tappet cam, and you need to run that at 2,000 RPM for, I don't know, 2 to 5 minutes or something like that to break the camshaft in. So pretty much everything needs to be kind of done. You got to have the cooling system in. You got to have the belt system on so the water pump's turning. So it's like, since you have to have the engine so far along on the install to break that camshaft in, I'm not going to run it for 2 to 5 minutes without coolant in the block. I mean, that's just stupidity. So I'm just gonna complete the install and fire it at the end. There's no point in rushing it. Do everything right, get everything situated, get everything ran the way it needs to be ran, and then I'll fire this baby up. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully in a week it'll be done. I'll be driving it back to the guy if I get time after work. And like I said, it's just a lot of little things, putting the gauges in, putting the taillights in, reworking a bunch of wiring, getting that clutch situated, hooking, running that fuel line, hooking that up. Like I said, coolant in it, oil's in it. I did that shaft right there that goes where the distributor goes. That's just like that's to prime the engine. I think I mentioned this before. Put a drill on it, you run it, that shaft goes all the way down into the pan and turns the oil pump mechanically with a drill. And I ran that for probably a minute the other day. Again, I didn't know if I was getting oil pressure because I haven't wired that cylinder up. But I could definitely, it was spinning free for probably 10-15 seconds. And then I felt the drill load up. So obviously it was sucking oil and pressurizing it from the way it was kind of loading up that drill. If you do these, it's a good idea because you get everything primed. There's oil on all the rockers, there's oil on all the valves. Everything that's going to have oil on it when it's running has oil on it when you're driving that. Just be sure whatever engine you're working on, this is a Ford small block and the distributor runs counterclockwise. So put your drill in there, tighten the chuck up, put the drill in reverse on a Ford, and then you run that shaft in reverse, and that's the way the oil pump drives, because if you drive it clockwise, the oil pump's going to be trying to shove air into the oil pan instead of suck oil from the oil pan, which, I mean, if you run it for too long, you can damage your oil pump. But so, like I said, coolant in it, oil's in it. No major problems so far. Just plucking along. See you on the next one.